Jalen drifted through the crowded corridors of the interstellar black market, his boots making soft echoes against the metal floors. He had been wandering this place for weeks, ever since leaving his home colony behind. The humans there had never understood him. They called him reckless, too curious, too bold. Maybe they were right. Or maybe, he thought, they just didn't want to see things differently. The black market was alive with sound. Alien voices mixed with human chatter. Strange machines hummed, and flashing lights from various stalls reflected off polished metal walls. Jalen was used to it by now, but it never failed to make his heart race. Here, there were no rules, only opportunity. He stopped in front of a stall labeled in a language he barely understood. Rusted spacecraft hulls were stacked haphazardly, some missing wings, some with half-open doors that looked like they hadn't been opened in centuries. Jalen's eyes caught something unusual. A small, almost invisible plaque on a dented spaceship. Ancient alien vessel, the auctioneer said without looking at him. Purchased. As is. Be warned. It talks. A lot. Some say it's rude. Jalen smiled. Rude. Huh? He could handle rude. He had handled humans far worse. The auction began. He stood back, trying to stay calm as the price climbed. The crowd was small but serious. Wealthy aliens with long, spindly arms waved their bidding paddles. Jalen kept silent. He didn't have much money, but he had something more valuable: impulse. Sometimes, taking a chance mattered more than coins. When the hammer finally fell, he had done it. Against all odds, he owned the ship. Or, as the auctioneer had warned, the ship would own him. The ship waited at Dock 42, a corroded platform far from the main traffic lanes. Jalen approached, his heart thumping. The vessel was not large, but its design was unusual. Sleek curves mixed with jagged edges, and panels of alien script blinked faintly. He ran his fingers along the hull. "Hello?" he called. The ship shivered, or at least, it felt like it. Then, a voice, loud and booming, filled his helmet. Well, look who finally decided to show up. Took you long enough." Jalen froze. You talk? Talk? I scream. I yell. I give opinions. And yes, sometimes I nag. But don't worry. I'm mostly polite. Jalen blinked. Mostly polite? Mostly. Emphasis on mostly. Now, get inside before I start laughing at you in public. 1. Jalen's hands shook slightly as he opened the cockpit. The interior was tight but functional. Panels blinked with alien colors. Levers and screens hovered in places that seemed impossible. He slid into the seat, feeling the ship shift slightly under him. Finally, the voice said, softer this time. Someone who can move properly. I've been sitting here for, well, a long time. Dust is my worst enemy. And now, you're here. Huh? Jalen chuckled. You really like talking, don't you? I live to talk. It's how I express myself. And believe me, you will hear everything I think. All of it. He sighed, unsure if he had made a good decision. But the curiosity in him was stronger than his doubt. The ship powered up slowly, groaning and clanking. Jalen pushed a few buttons, trying to understand the controls. The screens lit up, showing star maps, alien coordinates, and something labeled in a language he didn't recognize. Ah, trying to read my maps already, huh? Bold. I like that. But careful, my dear human. These maps are older than your species. One wrong move and... He laughed nervously. One wrong move and what? And I'll tell everyone in the sector how clueless you are. Public humiliation is my specialty. The first few hours were chaos. The ship refused to go straight, its engines sputtering like they had a mind of their own. Jalen pushed buttons, flipped switches, and muttered under his breath. The ship groaned, whistled, and occasionally shouted sarcastic comments. Honestly, human, you have no idea what you're doing. Do you? I'm figuring it out, Jalen shouted over the ship's booming voice. Figuring it out? You call that figuring it out? I've seen rocks steer better than you. Despite his frustration, Jalen couldn't help but laugh. This was not the quiet, lonely exploration he had imagined. This was alive. Alive in a way he hadn't expected. By nightfall, or what he assumed was night in this dock, Jalen managed to get the ship moving smoothly. The hum of the engine was steady, almost comforting, and the voice had softened. You know, the ship said, almost shyly, you're not terrible at this. Keep practicing, and maybe, just maybe, we won't crash immediately. Jalen smiled. Thanks, I think. And thank me properly. I deserve it. I'm old, dusty, and loud. A little gratitude won't hurt. As he navigated through the docking corridors and into open space, Jalen noticed the stars stretched infinitely ahead. He had always dreamed of leaving human colonies behind, exploring the unknown, and now, with this loud, opinionated vessel, he could. The first jump was the hardest. The ship screamed in protest as Jalen engaged the hyperdrive. Lights flashed, panels blinked, and the cockpit rattled. Are you trying to kill me? The ship shouted. No, Jalen yelled. I just want to see what's out there. You humans and your reckless curiosity. Fine, fine. Hold on tight, Buttercup. Destination, unknown. When the stars stretched into long, glowing lines, Jalen laughed aloud. The sensation was exhilarating. The fear, the excitement, the unknown. It was all real. All immediate. And through it, the ship's voice continued, giving commentary, teasing, and occasionally praising his attempts. By the time they exited hyperspace near a small, uncharted asteroid belt, Jalen felt a strange sense of companionship. He had only known this ship for a few hours, but it felt like an old friend, or at least, an old enemy that talked too much, but cared in its own way. See that? The ship asked, pointing with blinking lights to a massive asteroid. That's a perfect test. Let's see if you can navigate without me having a panic attack. Jalen's stomach twisted with nerves, but he felt ready. He had faced judgment from humans, and this ship was no different. Together, maybe they could explore, discover, and survive. Maybe this loud, brash, ancient vessel was exactly the partner he needed. All right, he said, gripping the controls tightly. Let's see what you've got. Oh, I've got plenty. But remember, I talk. And with that, the Outcast and his very loud alien vessel ventured further into the unknown, a strange team bound by curiosity, courage, and an unstoppable desire to explore. The stars awaited, and for the first time in years, Jalen felt like he belonged somewhere out here, with a ship that had a personality as loud as his own heart. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly before Jalen, jagged rocks floating silently in the void. He gripped the ship's controls, trying to remember every tip the vessel had shouted at him during their brief but chaotic journey. The ship, of course, wasn't helping much. Well, look at you, the vessel boomed, lights blinking across the cockpit. Sweaty palms, shaky knees, and still pretending you know what you're doing. Bold, human, very bold. I'm trying, Jalen shouted over the voice, trying to navigate between two massive asteroids that threatened to crush the hull if he made even the smallest mistake. Trying. That's cute. Adorable, even. But trying won't save you if you don't listen to me. I know the rocks. Human. I know them. And I will scream at you if you don't follow my instructions. Jalen swallowed his fear and nodded, muttering to himself. Okay. Left. Then right. Throttle. Ah, music to my sensors. Finally, some cooperation. For the next half hour, Jalen and the ship wove between rocks, the asteroid belt testing their every move. The vessel's voice rang with sarcasm, advice, and occasional laughter, but slowly, Jalen began to understand its rhythm. Its loud personality wasn't chaos, it was a guide, a living instruction manual wrapped in humor. You're learning, the ship said, softer now. Not fast enough. But learning. I'll take what I can get. By the time they cleared the belt, Jalen was sweaty and exhausted. But he felt a rush of pride. He had navigated through danger well. With a lot of yelling, but he had done it. You know, he said, leaning back in the seat. You're not so bad. For a loud, annoying ship. Not so bad? I'll take that as a compliment, the ship said, lights flickering like it was grinning. I've waited centuries for a pilot who can almost keep up with me. You might be good enough. Almost, Jalen laughed. Almost good enough. I'll take it. The next few days were an adjustment. Jalen learned the ship had a personality as unpredictable as its design. It loved colors, often lighting up corridors in random neon patterns, and occasionally played music from unknown alien frequencies just to test his patience. At first, Jalen found it frustrating. Sometimes, he would try to concentrate on navigation, and the ship would start reciting old alien poetry in a booming voice. Other times, it would refuse to land, demanding scenic detours. Seriously? We're here to refuel, Jalen yelled. Refuel? Who said we need refueling now? Look at that view. Look at it, human. It's magnificent. And we can't miss it. Beauty is important. You know, Jalen groaned but looked anyway. The sight was breathtaking. Floating crystals glimmered near a tiny moon, reflecting light across the ship's hull. He had never seen anything like it. Okay, he admitted. You might be right this time. Of course I'm right. I am always right. You'll learn that eventually, maybe. Their first real adventure came unexpectedly. While passing through a quiet sector, sensors blared. A rogue asteroid cluster was drifting dangerously toward a nearby mining station. Human, you see that? The ship shouted. That's trouble. And if we don't act fast, innocent aliens, probably very rich ones, will get squashed. Jalen's heart raced. What can we do? Follow my lead. The ship navigated closer to the cluster, pointing out weak points in the rocks, predicting their movement, and warning Jalen every time a collision was possible. It shouted, it teased, it scolded, but its guidance was precise. Left. Hard left. No, harder. Too slow. Faster, human. Jalen adjusted the controls as best as he could, sweat pouring down his face. The ship's booming voice was relentless, but it was also reassuring. Somehow, he trusted it completely. Finally, after tense moments of dodging and weaving, they managed to divert the cluster's trajectory away from the mining station. Alarms at the station blared, and Jalen saw tiny figures waving at them through viewing screens. We did it, he said, panting. Yes. We did it! The ship shouted, lights flashing in celebration. You may be a human outcast, but today, you made a difference. Jalen smiled, feeling pride he hadn't experienced in years. For the first time, he realized this loud, impossible ship was more than just a vehicle. It was a partner. A strange, loud, opinionated partner, but one that believed in him. Over the next few weeks, the bond between Jalen and the ship grew. They explored nebulae, navigated wormholes, and discovered small alien civilizations that had never interacted with humans. Through it all, the ship's voice was a constant companion. It teased him, insulted him, and occasionally praised him. But Jalen learned to understand its moods, to read the flashing lights and sudden noises. You humans are strange, the ship said one day. You touch everything, ask too many questions, and yet somehow, you survive. Impressive. I like that. And I like that you, well, yell a lot, Jalen said. You make things exciting. Exciting? I am excitement incarnate. Don't forget it. One evening, while resting near a small star, Jalen watched the ship's lights dance across the cockpit. It hummed softly, almost like it was purring. He realized he hadn't felt lonely in days. With this ship, he wasn't an outcast, he was part of something bigger. You know, Jalen said quietly, I thought being alone was normal. That's what everyone said. But I don't feel alone anymore. Finally, the ship said, its voice gentler than usual. It took you long enough to notice. Humans. So stubborn. The ship wasn't perfect, of course. It often refused orders for no reason, played pranks that nearly caused Jalen to spill his space rations, and once tried to convince him to enter a dangerous asteroid cave because it looked fun. But the human learned to laugh, to argue, and sometimes to surrender gracefully. Fine, you win this time, Jalen said during one prank. Ha! Victory! I knew you'd see reason eventually, the ship shouted. Through these experiences, Jalen discovered the value of humor, patience, and trust. The ship's loud personality wasn't a nuisance, it was a teacher, a protector, and a friend, all in one. You're more than just a machine, Jalen said one night, staring at the blinking lights around the cockpit. You care. Of course I care. I don't scream, advise, and lecture for fun. Well, partly for fun, but mainly because I care. Pay attention. Jalen laughed softly. He knew this partnership would change him. The loneliness he had carried for so long was gone, replaced with excitement, challenge, and a sense of purpose. With the ship by his side, the universe felt open, vast, and welcoming. As they traveled further into uncharted space, the ship's voice remained a constant, guiding him, teasing him, and pushing him to be better. And Jalen, for the first time in his life, felt ready to meet whatever challenges awaited them, knowing he wasn't alone. The stars stretched endlessly, mysteries waiting in every corner. And together, Jalen and his very loud alien vessel would face them all, one loud, chaotic, exciting adventure at a time. Jalen and the ship had traveled farther than he had ever imagined possible. Stars streaked past them like liquid light, nebulae shimmered in colors he had no words for, and strange, unexplored planets appeared on the horizon. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, and, for the first time, Jalen felt that he belonged somewhere out here, far from the human colonies that had rejected him. You know, human, the ship said in its booming, slightly theatrical voice. You are officially no longer boring. You're competent, brave, almost heroic. I'm proud of you. Don't let it go to your head. Jalen laughed, gripping the controls. Almost heroic? That's generous. Almost is my favorite word, the ship said. But don't get too cocky. I'm still in charge here. They had just exited a colorful nebula, its gases sparkling against the hull, when the ship's sensors picked up something unusual. A small convoy of alien vessels was stranded near an asteroid field. Engines failing and communications offline. Distress signals, the ship announced, its tone suddenly serious. We can't ignore them. Humans call it doing the right thing. I call it fun. Jalen adjusted his course. Let's help them. Good human. Very noble. But try not to crash while you're saving lives. As they approached the stranded convoy, Jalen saw several small ships, battered and drifting. Alien crew members waved frantically from their cockpits. Jalen felt a surge of responsibility and, surprisingly, excitement. Okay, ship, he said. Show me what to do. Finally. Praise where praise is due. Watch carefully. Human. The ship guided him through a series of precise maneuvers, weaving between asteroids and debris. Its booming voice alternated between scolding and encouragement. Left, left, no, not that left, hard right. Good, that's it. Jalen's hands moved quickly, adjusting thrusters, flipping switches, and following the ship's rapid instructions. The stranded ships slowly started to move into safer positions, engines barely functional, but stable thanks to Jalen's careful piloting. Ha, see? Told you humans could be useful, the ship said proudly. Jalen smiled, feeling a thrill he had never known. He realized that this moment, saving lives, exploring the unknown, working with a partner who challenged and cheered him, was exactly what he had been searching for. The alien crews finally made it to a safe zone. They waved and cheered, even though most of them had never seen a human before. Jalen couldn't understand their language, but he understood their gratitude. "You did well, human," the ship said quietly. "I admit it. You impressed me. Not just with skill, but with courage." "Thanks," Jalen replied, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Couldn't have done it without you." News of their actions spread quickly. Across multiple star systems, tales of a human pilot and a loud, talking alien ship circulated. Some thought it was a myth. Others were curious to meet the daring duo. Jalen had never sought fame, but recognition wasn't unwelcome. For the first time, humans and aliens alike saw him as more than an outcast. He was clever, courageous, and resourceful. A human who could thrive in a galaxy full of dangers and wonders. "I told you," the ship said one day, lights flickering as if it were smirking. "I said you'd be famous. You see? Even an outcast can shine if they have a good partner." Jalen laughed. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Of course not. Don't forget it," the ship said, voice booming. "I'm the real hero here. But you're learning fast. Keep it up, human. Keep it up." Their adventures continued. They explored uncharted planets, finding civilizations untouched by other humans. Some were curious, some were wary. But Jalen approached with the same combination of bravery and respect he had learned from living as an outcast. And every time he tried to communicate, the ship helped him. Translating alien languages, offering cultural advice, and occasionally making sarcastic comments that made even tense encounters easier to handle. On one lush, green planet, they discovered a village struggling with a mysterious energy shortage. Jalen and the ship worked together to repair the ancient energy grid. The villagers were amazed at the humans' knowledge and the ship's unusual abilities. "You humans are clever," one villager said, staring at Jalen. "And your ship? It is alive?" "Yes," Jalen said with a grin. "And very loud." The ship laughed, a booming sound that echoed across the village. "Loud? I prefer expressive. And helpful, too. Obviously. You're welcome, everyone." By now, Jalen was no longer the outcast who wandered the black market alone. He was a recognized figure, known not for rebellion or mistakes, but for courage, curiosity, and ingenuity. And the ship, his loud, unpredictable companion, was central to that recognition. Even in quiet moments, the bond between human and ship had deepened. They shared small routines. The ship would recite alien poems at sunset, sometimes humming while Jalen slept. Jalen would read aloud human stories, much to the ship's amusement or mockery. "You humans and your stories," the ship said one night. "Predictable, but strangely comforting. Keep going." "I will," Jalen said, smiling. "You know, you're not just a ship. You're a friend." The ship paused, then responded softly. "I suppose humans aren't completely intolerable. You've earned a friend in me, too." It was a rare moment of quiet, and Jalen treasured it. He had spent so long feeling alone, rejected, and unseen. Now, he had a partner, a purpose, and a place in the galaxy. Their reputation continued to grow. Other humans, hearing of Jalen's bravery and the ship's loud personality, began seeking him out for advice, exploration missions, or simply stories of the unknown. Jalen realized that being an outcast had given him skills others lacked: independence, creativity, and a willingness to face the unknown without fear. "You see, human," the ship said one day as they navigated through a glittering asteroid belt, "your being an outcast was your secret advantage. You were free to learn, free to explore, free to be excellent." Jalen laughed. "I never thought I'd hear an alien call me excellent." "Of course you didn't, but I just did. Treasure it." They explored wormholes that twisted light like water, discovered planets with floating forests, and even encountered alien species that communicated only through music. Through it all, the ship's loud, opinionated voice guided, entertained, and sometimes nagged him. Jalen had learned to listen, laugh, and trust. One day, as they drifted near a peaceful star cluster, Jalen looked out at the stars and reflected. He had once been a human outcast, rejected for curiosity and ambition. Now, he was a celebrated explorer, traveling with a companion who challenged him, inspired him, and sometimes drove him slightly mad with its loud personality. "You know," he said quietly, "I think I've finally found where I belong." "No, of course you have. And I've finally found someone who can tolerate me. Perfect match, really," the ship replied with a booming laugh. Jalen smiled. He knew the galaxy was full of dangers, mysteries, and surprises. But for the first time, he felt ready to face it all, not just because of his skill, but because he had a partner, a friend, and a ship that had taught him that courage, curiosity, and laughter were the greatest strengths a human could have. Together, they would continue to explore, discover, and help others. The outcast was no longer alone. He had become a symbol of what humans could achieve: resourceful, courageous, and full of heart. And the ship? Well, it remained loud, opinionated, and impossible to ignore, but Jalen wouldn't have it any other way. As stars stretched endlessly ahead, they sailed onward into the unknown, a human and his very loud alien vessel, ready for every adventure the galaxy could throw at them. And for the first time, Jalen knew. Being different wasn't a curse, it was a gift.